All right, today we are talking to Elie Marty Becker.
Right.
Okay, and we're in Palm Desert. And Elie, do I have your permission to take this interview?
Yes, you do.
Good. Now, what's with Marty, the Marty part? Is that like a man?
Well, my real name is Mary Ellen Mart, and when I went into show business, I was using Mary Mart. They said it was too much like Mary Martin. And so I changed it, and it became, I wanted to keep some of my name, most of my name. So I put the Ellen in front and made that Elie, and then I got the Marty in the middle.
And
That's
you
how
are
that
from, you grew up in?
South Dakota.
And where did Ronnie grow up?
South Dakota.
All right, so today we're talking to you, and we're also talking about your husband, Ronald Becker. And that's B-A-C-K-E-R, right?
Right.
Okay, and where was he born?
He was born in a little town outside of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You probably hadn't heard of it. And I was born in Centerville. We weren't born in the same town. And then he's older than I. And so, like, he had a wife and a family by the time I met him, but his wife had died in a car accident. And he came home for the bicentennial to, cure his, little wounds from it all. Because his folks lived right next to me, but I had never, next to my folks, but I had never met him. We were never home at the same time. So when he came home, I decided to come home from Hollywood because I had a bad experience with somebody breaking into my apartment, and it happened to be bicentennial. So everybody was there, and so of course, our mothers were there, and they said, I think Ronnie's home. I thought, well, that's nice, anyhow. So before I knew it, I met Ronnie in the backyard, and he was only there for 3 days, and it was 3 days, and that was it. And pretty soon I went to Alabama with a banjo on my knee.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Did you travel on the road with a band or just on your own?
No, I'm kidding you.
Oh, okay.
Because when I jumped in his car, I said to my mom, I said, I'm going to Alabama with a banjo on my knee.
Okay. Well, you have to be careful not to kid too much because the truth is stranger than fiction, okay?
Okay. Right.
Now, this is a little ledger that Elie has, and it has a photograph. The name of that photograph is?
That's when we were working on One Heck of a Country Picnic.
Okay, and then next to it, to the left, is Ronnie's writing of the song lyrics, right? And he took calligraphy, right?
That's right.
Yeah. About when was this? Do you know what year, maybe?
When we were living in Burbank. See, we came to the beach area, and then we went to Burbank.
Was it approximately 1980?
It would be in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Elie, what are we showing right now? On the left is a letter from him.
Yeah, he wrote in poet form. He was very good at that. And so I decided, I think I might have written a few when he was alive of his poems, but there wasn't time. So after he's been gone now, I've been digging them out, and I'm writing songs to him. Yeah.
And let me just say this quickly here the side room here is your what is that? Is it a Yamaha or what? That keyboard.
Yeah, it's a keyboard.
And then behind it is another keyboard? Oh, it's a piano.
This is the piano, the electric piano.
All right, here we are with Elie Marty Becker. And talking about her husband, Ronnie Becker, who is no longer with us. And we have covered so far how they met and that kind of thing. And then we've also covered the song and the painting combination. Right. So now we're moving on to some that Elie selected that are specific for Palm Desert, right? All right, so let's start with the one here. Go ahead.
It's called Springtime in the Desert. These travelers of yesteryear are halfway between Palm Springs and Indio at a location now known as Rancho Mirage. Leaving the beaten Bradshaw Trail, they head into the desert proper. taking advantage of the springtime bloom of flowers. As the man scans the vastness of the terrain with his binoculars, the ladies admire and pick some of the short-lived beauties. That was kind of all his imagination, this one.
Now, did he paint that on site, or did he come home and paint that when he came
Yeah,
home?
he came home and painted it. He did all his paintings at home, except when he was going to the schools, yeah.
Did he sketch this at this place, or did
Sometimes he does, and sometimes he didn't.
he? Who wrote that description? He did. Okay.
He does all the writing on this.
And when approximately when was that painting done? Do you know?
Well, he started in Palm Desert, painting Coachella Valley in 2011, and he painted it up to 2019. Yeah.
And why did he stop painting?
Well, he had painted ever since I married him, and we were married. When he passed away in 2020, it was 44 years, because another month it would have been 44 years. He had his arm up every afternoon like this. All of a sudden, with age, that arm got very tired, and he didn't want to do that anymore.
What's this painting here over to your left?
Okay, that's the first house that was built in Palm Desert. It was built in 1922. Now, it's somewhere in the area of where Bob Hope and Country Club is, because there was no Bob Hope, no Country Club back in that day, you know. So evidently, a certain part of the country, there was more Palm Desert at that time than there is now.
And that building is?
It's no longer there, no.
What was that building again?
The first house built in Palm Desert.
All right. Now we're in your house, and your husband had lots of paintings. How many do you think there are in here?
In the house? Well, of the Coachella Valley in the house, I think there's 49.
And what about the whole inventory? What do you think? How many?
Oh, wow. We got some in storage. And then see all over, you know, different parts of the country that he painted.
So what would you say the total?
He's painted over 200 paintings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of which you mentioned are not here because you had a gentleman come in from New York.
Well, we've sold a lot of paintings.
I know you did.
Not necessarily the Coachella Valley paintings. We've just sold 19 of those. The people here aren't into history like they are in the Midwest because it's so new. There's not much history here yet.
Right.
Unless you go back to the Bradshaw Trail and things like that, you know.
All right, so we're going to discuss this. It's a collage, or what? How do you call this one?
I call it montage.
Oh, montage, okay.
First, I'll tell you, it's the birth of a town. See, that's Cliff Henderson, and I think that's his brother Randall, and this is Tommy Thompson. Tommy Thompson had a lot to do with this.
Was he an architectural, landscape architect?
I think he was, yeah. And so anyhow, there's the Firehouse Museum, and at one time, they had stables, horses, I mean, you know. This is around Shadow Mountain area somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where. This is some kind of a diner down here, and there, of course, is a popular building that's still on 111. This is the swimming pool that was so popular, you know, in Shadow Mountain, especially at that time. And he could tell you so much better. I'm not sure what that building is. It must be something.
Does your card that one you're holding?
And here's the golf. He had to get the golf in. Now I might have it in the book though. And on the card it says, this limited edition of some of Palm Desert's significant events can be purchased for $250. Now it might not be that much anymore. I don't know. $250 each at Palm Desert Historical Museum, the firehouse, on Paseo Drive. So, like I said, they didn't make too many. This is a gaucher. That is way
That's a
better
gaucher.
than a print.
All right, now we're at this another painting, and this painting is?
Trouble on the Bradshaw. Because of the vehicle limitations, tourists are backing their 1920 Model T Ford up the Victor Canyon slope on the Bradshaw Road. Extra manpower was always needed because of the loose sand. The Model T had a 10-gallon fuel tank beneath the front seat that relied on gravity to make the gasoline flow from the fuel tank to the carburetor. This worked fine on level roads, but when going up a hill, the gas slashed to the back of the tank and couldn't reach the carburetor. So it was necessary to back up the hill. Ford corrected this in 1926 when the fuel tank was moved forward to under the cowl. You know what cowl is? C-O-W-L?
Cowl.
Where? It's in the car somewhere.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, right? What year do you think this was done?
Well, they were all done between 2011 and 2019.
Okay, even these, okay.
All of these. Mhm.
All right, gotcha. All right, so we're in front of another painting now, and this one is called?
County Well. This well was dug in 1870 by the County of Riverside to assist travelers on the Bradshaw Road. It became known as the County Well. The County Well was for 40 years the valley's only established watering point. Many locals obtained their water from this well, in addition to its being a temporary stop for the travelers. In 1823, Mexican explorer Captain Jose Romero gave Indian Wells its name, based on a thriving Indian village formed around the well, which was dug by hand by Indian women. It was large and deep and was located north of the later built County Well. Move out. The first community contribution in the new town of Palm Desert was the Shadow Mountain Club. The grand opening was December 1948, with the opening festivities lasting 4 days. It featured great entertainment facilities, one of which was the Shadow Mountain Stables. Under a setting sun, the group, having finished their hot dogs and marshmallows, climb aboard the hay wagon for a moonlight ride in the canyons. The horseman on the right might possibly be Carl Henderson, of course, one of the Henderson brothers, waiting for the original Move Out. But see, the stables were around there somewhere. Interesting.
Here we go with the next painting, and it's called?
Polo at the Airport. Coachella Valley's first fly-in hotel, Desert Air Hotel, was developed by Hank Goerty in 1945 to provide us access to his ranch property to the north. The location was north of intersection Highway 111 and Rio del Sol, now Bob Hope Drive. It was billed as the West's finest desert resort. By 1950, the grass airship was 3,400 feet long. When the polo field was in use, a large white X was placed on the runway to warn the pilots to land elsewhere. The field was so close to where the planes were parked that balls would occasionally hit the planes. John Wayne used this air park as a layover en route to Mexico to shoot movies, because flying at night in Mexico was prohibited.
All right, there you go. This one is called?
O Tenenbaum.
Okay.
The spirit of O Tenenbaum shines on El Paseo, Palm Desert, California, also known as O Christmas Tree. O Tenenbaum is a fir tree. A Christmas song by the same name does not actually refer to Christmas or describe a decorated Christmas tree. The lyrics refer to the evergreen qualities as a symbol of constancy and faithfulness. So it is with the Tree of Lights, sponsored by the business owner during the Christmas season for its faithful shoppers. Located near the corner of El Paseo and Highway 74, it presents a happy atmosphere on El Paseo. Pedestrians enjoy the many works of art that are on display as part of the city's El Paseo Invitational Exhibition. Shoppers enjoy the many fine restaurants and shopping establishments, and O Tenenbaum spectacular light show.
All right, we're at another amazing painting. It's called
South Main, Palm Springs. Palm Springs became a fashionable resort in the 1900s when health tourists arrived with conditions that required dry heat. By 1920, the population had only grown to about 75 year-round residents. It gained notoriety as a winter playground for Hollywood stars and often celebrities. Today it is a home to approximately 45,000, from 75 to 45,000, permanent residents that double with winter snow through May. The Old Plank Road. It is in 1918, and from the treacherous sand dunes of Southern California, a plank road was built, only about 5 miles, linking Arizona to Southern California. It was bumpy and served as a chiropractor adjustment. In spite of turnouts, traffic jams were not uncommon.
And we're in front of the painting that is called
Which would you rather do? Meaning fly or work as a farmer? When Ronnie was still living with his parents, he was helping his folks farm. He didn't like that job well, and he wanted to be a pilot. And he tried out, and his eyes weren't good enough. So that's how this painting came about. He always wanted to be a pilot. And what's so funny, his middle name is Dwayne. And when he went to try out to be a pilot, he wasn't Ronald, he was Dwayne. Tribute to Sadie. Ed and Sadie Bunker arrived in Palm Springs, in 1914, in their 1914 Maxwell. She and Ed built Bunker's garage with sheet metal. Ed later left Palm Springs, but the indomitable Zadie carried on. Studying mechanics from handbooks, she skillfully operated the only garage in town. In her greasy bib overalls, she kept all vehicles in good running condition. One of the very few women who drove a truck, she also was the first woman in California to receive a chauffeur's license. With her real estate investment, she became very wealthy. The saga continues. She received her pilot's license at age 60 and sold in 1966. When she became a great-grandmother, she sanctified Sadie's rocking chair on the side of her private plane. At age 73, she became an honorary Air Force colonel, and in 1959, piloting a F-100 Super Sabri jet. She became one of the first women to break the sound barrier. Oh my gosh. They named the plane Zadie's Rocking Chair Number 4. She raced in the Powder Duff Derby, and in 1962, at age 76, she won a cross-country race, beating out 5 men. She was Palm Springs' contribution to the field of aviation. Sadie's 1947 Navian A is still alive and flying. That must have been a plane called Navian A. It has been renovated and now has a slick silver finish. So that must have been the plane.
There you go.
Mullet Island. Now that's actually over in the Salton Sea. Captain Charles E. Davis, an all-around adventurer, homesteaded on a dormant volcano within the Salton Sink, they called it, which became an island peninsula after the Salton Sea was created in 1905-1906. He added a boat landing, a cafe, a dance hall. Oh, it became known as Hell's Kitchen.
So let's see, what is this one called now?
Rancho Mirage Remembrance.
And you think it's still there?
Mm-hmm.
You know where it is?
It's in Rancho Mirage. It's a big park.
Okay.
You can get to it. It's off of Bob Hope Drive somewhere going that way. Dunes Club. It was the Great Depression and gambling was illegal, but L. Wertheimer built a casino in the unincorporated area of Cathedral City. It was named the Dunes Club, and it brought to the Palm Springs area movie stars, Mongols, tycoons, and other wealthy people. Automobiles lined up the driveway, bringing their passengers, all with much money, to enjoy the tables, wheels, and slots at the El Spanish-style stucco palace. The Dunes Club, after a number of brushes with the law, mysteriously burned in 1942. The building was destroyed in 1954, and this is in Cathedral City. Morning at the Melon Patch. Lack of viruses and diseases resulted in heavy production of cantaloupes. In 1899, a crate of cantaloupes brought $11 in Chicago, circa 1905 to 1906. They brought the aphids, which took over all the crops, and the cantaloupes were no longer the leading crop. The farmers then grew onions, white wax, and yellow Bermudas. The key to prosperity was early crops and good prices. There was a cantaloupe and later an onion packing association shed at Thermal. The first grapes planted in the valley were a variety of the very hardy Melagas. El Mirador Hotel. The El Mirador Hotel in Palm Springs opened in 1928, after which it went through numerous closings and renovations and was used as a military hospital during World War II. It was located on North Indian Canyon Drive in Palm Springs and eventually became the Desert Regional Medical Center. It has been completely renovated but retains its original tower. The lady in the custom-painted Model A Ford is picking up her golfer partner and heading to the golf course. Torres Martinez. The Torres Martinez Desert Coachella Indian Nation is a federally recognized tribal government and is one of 6 Indian reservations established by executive order of President Ulysses S. Grant on May 20th, 1876. The Torres Martinez Historical District consists of 3 buildings believed to be the oldest standing Indian agency buildings in the state of California. The old Bureau of Indian Affairs schoolhouses was built in 1907 and served as part of the Center of Tribal Activities. The Torres Martinez Historical District was placed on the National Register of Historic Places on May 17, 1973, and is a California point of historical interest. That evidently is still there. Oasis Rest Stop. Historic Route 99 began as a horse and stagecoach trail extending from Mexico to Canada. It was originally called the Pacific Highway, the Golden Share Route, and the Highway of the 3 Nations. In 1926, this Pacific Highway became US 99. The OA station and the cafe on this Indio to Brawley Highway operated by the Beesbees for a popular rest stop. It is likely that the cotton plant was introduced into California from Mexico by the Franciscans' fathers and developed by them as a commercial large-scale crop. Alcala Cotton Growers Association's biggest year may have been 1923 and 24. Highway 99 is now Highway 86. Pursued lovers. In 1909, a 28-year-old Native American called Willie Boy in an argument killed Mike Boniface, a respected leader of the tribe. Mike was the father of a 16-year-old Carlota, Willie's boy's lover, and the woman he wanted to marry. Mike refused permission for them to marry because they were cousins, and Carlota was too young. This event became known as the last great manhunt of the desert. Fleeing from the sheriff and his posse, the lovers escaped into the desert, backtracking nearly 600 miles in 100-degree heat for a dozen days. Carlota was killed by gunfire, and supposedly Willie Boy was also. History differs on Willie Boy's ending, and many books have been written about him, including a movie on the event. In the artist's opinion, the best historical analyst of the event was written, there she is, Anne Japanga, in a story that can be found on her website. And then they give her website in the journalistics section. That's it. Donkey Man. Andrew Rowland was known as Andy the Donkey Man. He came to Palm Desert in 1931 and shared a 7-acre cove off of Painter's Path with an artist, Fred Crisnell. That was a very famous artist, as I recall. And rockologist? Chuckawalla Slim. He lived in a dilapidated homemade shepherd's cart and at one time had as many as 35 donkeys. Andy lived in the desert, October through May, and made his living by giving the children rides on his donkeys. His charge was once around the 7 acres and was only 50 cents. The artist believes that his mother, in order to convince him to give a ride for both her and her daughter out on Painter's Path, offered Andy enough financial incentive to make it an attractive proposition. In the summer, he and his donkeys took off in his homemade wagon to Lake Hemet. I guess that's what she must have offered him. Little Green Schoolhouse. The Little Green Schoolhouse was built in 1902. It was built next to the Baptist Church and was the first school built in Thurmont. It accommodated all 8 grades and consisted of 1 teacher, Mrs. Clara Boyer, and 9 pupils. The first class moved in that fall when the painters had not yet finished painting the exterior. In 1908, the Colgell School District became the Thermal Grammar School, and the school moved to new quarters. The building was converted into a recreation hall. When the Baptist Church was destroyed by fire on November 17, 1949, the old schoolhouse was also destroyed.